Well, today a new GOP poll is out in New Hampshire, which shows two candidates making some serious gains. Of course, Donald Trump is leading with 18%, followed by Ben Carson at 16%.
But Marco Rubio has surged 9 points into third place, and Chris Christie has jumped into fifth place with 8%. Here with us from Washington is Ed O'Keefe. He's a political reporter at the Washington Post. Thanks for being with us, Ed.
Great to be with you guys.
So Marco Rubio has been picking up a lot of steam of late. Is he in the top three to stay?
Not necessarily, because, you know, if you look even just a few weeks ago, maybe even 3 months ago, there was a different top three. There very well could be a new top three in 3 months when people actually go to the polls. This just shows the continued fluidity of the race. Rubio obviously benefiting here from his command performance at the debate last week, while Trump and Carson hold on to those top spots. What's notable there, you mentioned the Christie rise. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that while the rest of us have been focused on those other candidates and Christie has kind of wallowed in the back of the pack, he's been spending most of his time politically in New Hampshire, traveling the state quietly, holding town hall meetings, trying to convince folks that he's a guy they should consider. And that has led a lot of people to believe that at some point here we might start to see him creep up yet again, despite the fact that he continues to face questions about some of the things that were done by his administration there in New Jersey.
Another person spending time in New Hampshire is Jeb Bush. He's going to be there today, and he's continuing with the new slogan, Jeb will fix it. Yet he's still pretty low down in sixth place. Time has got to be running out for him. I mean, the donors are not going to be sitting around writing out checks forever waiting for him to turn things around.
That's right. I've talked to a bunch of those donors this week, and some who are expressing concern, others who say money won't be an issue. He's got plenty to stay all the way through February if he wants to. The issue here for him, especially there in New Hampshire, is that he's not doing what John Kasich and Chris Christie have been doing, which is basically moving into the state, spending several days a week there, trying to meet with voters the way that New Hampshire likes to elect presidents. And so you're going to start to see him do a lot more of that in the coming weeks. He is there for 3 days this week, holding a sort of traditional bus tour-like campaign throughout the state. He'll be back there again next week. He'll probably be back there the week after that and the week after that, because he knows that the state, among the first few that he can do best in, the type of Republican he needs to get ahead, are in New Hampshire. And so he will move into that state just as Kasich and Christie have, and they anticipate in the Bush campaign that his numbers will start to climb as he spends more time there.
And I wonder, Ed, are you hearing from the campaigns, specifically from Jeb Bush's campaigns, but some of the other traditional Republican candidates as well, that they are just waiting for what they see as the inevitable crash and burn of a candidate like Donald Trump or even Dr. Carson? Can the Bush campaign, the Christie campaign, the Kasich campaign afford to wait that out if it ever even happens?
Well, they've been waiting it out to some extent so far, and I think what you're starting to see now with this sort of change in poll position between Trump and Carson in various polls that have been released in recent days is that that lead is perhaps starting to crumble a little bit, that there are growing doubts or at least fatigue with these two, and that Republicans are starting to shop around yet again. I think that the rise of Carson and some other polling, not only nationally but in Iowa, suggests that there are Republicans who are a little displeased with the tone of the Trump campaign. But I tell you, all these campaigns are ready and willing to go after Carson, especially on some of his positions, his lack of experience in leading a government organization, or even large private organization for that matter. And I think that, you know, the next 3 months, remember there's still 3 months to go until the first ballots are cast, are going to allow these other candidates to come up with attacks on them and to raise doubts about whether or not they're ready and willing to be president.
Ed, before we let you go, I just want to quickly get your take on the governor's race in Kentucky. Matt Bevin, a businessman with absolutely no political experience, wins. He's a Tea Party Republican, and this is only the second time in 44 years they've elected a Republican to that position. Do you think there's some greater trends going on here? I mean, he didn't campaign on, obviously, his policy. He doesn't have any policy issues. He campaigned on the person that he is and his convictions.
Well, a few things are at play here. First off, remember, Bevin ran last year against Mitch McConnell in a Republican primary there for the state's Senate seat. He lost and almost immediately launched his gubernatorial campaign. So Republicans have now had Matt Bevin on their TV screens or in their inboxes for the last 2 years, essentially, as he's run for office. The other thing going on here, this is indicative of a larger problem nationally for Democrats. Kentucky has been run by Democrats, as you pointed out, historically for the past several decades. They lost a race that they should have been able to win. There's a real problem and a big concern with Democrats across the country that they're not doing enough to help those down-ballot candidates, not only help them win, but also find candidates who can run for things like state senate, governor, mayor, others lower level positions, help them rise up. They do a great job at the presidential level. But this, again, is an example of the fact that the Democratic Party has a big problem at lower levels at a time when a lot of Republicans across the country are still upset with President Obama and are very eager to elect people like Matt Bevin, who sort of are in that Tea Party vein.
Ed O'Keefe from the Washington Post. Thank you for your analysis, Ed. Appreciate it.
Take care.